husband.
All right. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani.
I'm Danielle.
And we are here for another great conversation. Hope you had an amazing Thanksgiving. People were traveling all over the country,
Yes,
all over the world to connect with family and friends. And I'm sure they ate good.
We ate good, a little bit too good. We're done.
Good.
We're uninterested in food. From this day forth, food is the enemy. We don't want no food. But guess what? It was good while it lasted.
Absolutely. Listen, we're in a great conversation today. We've been talking about over the last couple of weeks the importance of talking about an affair. When you've had an affair, you have to get into some serious conversations because there needs to be a lot of clarity given, a lot of understanding, exchange between the couple to see if it's possible for them to move forward. And when you're talking about these conversations, oftentimes if it's a heterosexual relationship and a heterosexual affair, the topic of friends has to be discussed. And that means that any interaction with a person of the opposite sex has to be unpacked, because 9 times out of 10, you cheated on your spouse with an opposite sex individual. And so this whole conversation of friends is critically important because we do a whole lot of things in the name of love. We do a whole lot of things in the name of friendship. And oftentimes it could be toxic and compromising to the integrity of your relationship. And there was a book written some time ago called Not Just Friends. And I think is worthy to really talk through that, because we claim all types of relationships as friends and it's no big deal and it's platonic and nothing's going on, but really it's a culprit.
I mean, at the end of the day, if it's not working for your marriage, it's just not working. I think after an affair, many times there are issues that go unresolved because they're not on the table, right? This is a discussion we're not going to have. Like, you're not going to tell me this lifelong friend that I've had, and I've had them since high school, is somebody that I've got to cut out of my life now because I made this mistake over here. This has nothing to do with that. When in actuality, it has everything to do with you healing and recovering and moving forward in your marriage without any angst or frustration or fears that it'll happen again. And I think a lot of times, maybe one person in the marriage felt like the friendships that we bring in were a little bit too close anyway, and we didn't say anything. We didn't want to be legalistic. It's just like, I saw that this was a little bit too close and too close for comfort. Like, this friend knows way too much about my spouse than I do. They got stories and they over here laughing and kiki and ha-ha about things that I have no idea about. And I'm on the outside looking in like, what y'all talking about, And so, but we don't say anything, number one, because maybe we have friends too that we haven't wanted to let go of, and or because it just has not been a negotiable. It has not been something that we can talk about. How do we establish boundaries that protect the marriage and make us both feel comfortable? After an affair, it takes center stage.
But let's go back, because you're talking about friends that we had before we actually got married. And these are the conversations that people are not having. Like, most people don't go to premarital counseling. Most people don't have real conversations about what will make a healthy relationship. Most people don't talk about expectations that they have. They go in with assumptions that you're just supposed to know this, or this is just supposed to be the way that it is. But we all have a different value system. We all have a different relational history. We all have a different family upbringing. So our worldview and perspective on things is completely different. And this is why people enter into conflict. So this whole idea of friends is worthy of a conversation, because the nature of the friendship, the history of the friendship, the length of time that the friendship has been in existence, to me, has to be discussed if we're coming together to merge lives. Not only are we merging our lives, we're now creating other ones.
And the history, like, what is the history of this friendship? How close were you? Some friendships start like in elementary school. Did you play spin the bottle together? Like, these are the things that I want to know, like, come on now. Did you do 7 minutes in heaven in the closet? So how intimately connected are you to this?
7 minutes in heaven, spin the bottle.
Anyways, some of y'all know
That's
what I'm
real.
talking about. So, like, you're talking about this is your friend, but there are certain boundaries you should never cross with a friend. And the other thing that stands out to me here is that because the boundaries may be soft with friendships that you brought in from the past, your boundaries will be soft with friends that you make presently and in the future.
Facts.
So if it's okay for me to do this with that friend and hang out with that friend and we just go into the movies with that friend, what would make it any different when you make a new friend on the job or at the gym or wherever it is that you're going?
That's why this conversation is so important, because if we don't have a comprehensive understanding about what a friendship actually means and what it is and what it looks like, we're going to have issues. So let's talk about this. Like, before we get into how it impacts a marriage, like, let's talk about the points that I just gave. Like, first of all, to your point, if there's been any type of relational, sexual, emotional history with a friend, and guess what? It didn't work out. That was in grade school. No big deal. We're just friends now. We've matured. We've gone on. Well, there's a history there. And the question is, if you bring this friend into your marriage, does your spouse know that history? Mm-hmm. Like, how much do you actually unpack? Because some people are taught, listen, whatever happened before, that's irrelevant. That has nothing to do with us. You don't need to know all those details. It's not relevant. And so now we're keeping secrets and hiding personal information that can compromise what's going on in this relationship and compromises trust and the whole idea of being open and honest, right, in your relationship. So now there's a history here, and you hope it doesn't come up, because if it comes up now, it's an issue. Mm-hmm. So that creates a vulnerability in the spouse, because they feel like, well, wait a minute, why didn't you tell me? I don't know if I can trust you. Mm-hmm. And if I can't trust you with the old friends, how can I trust you with any quote unquote friendship you establish from this point forward? Well, you can't,
because what is the trust based on? I can trust you to do what you do. I can trust you to operate in your beliefs, right? So if you have a belief system that it's okay for me to have friends from my past, ex-girlfriends, people that I've actually had sex with, but guess what? It didn't work out. And now we're just platonic friends. If that's your belief system, then I can trust that this is your belief system, and you will repeat those actions in other ways. You can always find something to trust in somebody, but do you want that to be what you're trusting in? Right. Knowing that they don't have any boundaries around that? Because at the end of the day, we do encounter many people who somehow they have rationalize how it makes sense to put somebody who you've been sexually intimate with in the friend zone and bring that along into your future relationships. That is a disaster waiting to happen, because at the first sign of trouble in your marriage, because you have befriended somebody who you've been intimate with, you're going to run to them. That's the next person that you're closest to, that you have an intimate connection to. You will run to them with your hurt, with your pain, with your complaints. And that is you opening an emotional door that leads to physical activity.
So let's start right there, because we talked about the potential history that they could have had together that they're covering up. But I think what you're talking about is even more significant. The level of intimacy that still exists in that relationship. Because when I'm not doing well with my spouse, guess who I'm going to?
When I'm not doing well with anything, guess who I'm going to? Because if you have friendships like that are that close, you're probably not sharing that much information with your spouse. I mean, women, we have a lot more words than men do. So that might shift depending. You might just be a blabbermouth and you're going to tell your husband all the tea, and then you're going to call your bestie and tell all the tea. But when it comes to men, if you have a man that has that close a relationship with a friend that's a female, and that's where he is sharing his most intimate struggles and things of that nature, 9 times out of 10, his wife doesn't know anything about what he's going through at work, what's happening at the gym, what's happening with the family, because he's already told someone that he's intimately connected to, and it's his friend.
So there's messages in movies. One of my favorite movies is Brown Sugar. We talk about this all the time. And Taye Diggs in that movie, matter of fact, it seems like to be a theme in many of the movies, even in The Best Man. Like, Taye Diggs is that guy who's in relationships but has inappropriate, unhealthy boundaries when it comes to members of the opposite sex, right? So he goes to his friend to share the things that he's excited about, the things that he's thinking about, ventures that he wants to start, trouble that he's having on the job, issues in the relationship, and the friend has a deeper connection with him than his own spouse. Now, we saw that show up in both of those movies, but this is a real thing, Danielle. So it's not just, to your point, not just about issues we're having. If something happened in my life before I go go to you because maybe, you know what, we just don't have that connection. Maybe I'm assuming how you're going to respond. Now, anything that I share, even if it's a challenge, it's going to impact you a certain type of way. I'm trying to avoid the conflict and the drama. I just want a listening ear, someone who can understand me. So I'm going to Keisha because she gets it. Right. So now,
she's non-biased. She has no strings attached. You know, she's not vested in the same way that the wife is vested. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, he could just pour out to her. And he's not going to repeat that or be transparent with his wife then because of a couple things. Number one, when you're really connecting with somebody and being transparent, you tell it all, like you're open, right? So you're not going to be talking to your wife being like, oh, my God, I told Takesha and she was like, blah, blah, blah. Nope. He's not going to risk that. Well, Takesha said, when your wife has an opposing opinion that you don't like, because you already know how she feels about it, and you be like, well, yeah, when I told Takesha, conflict. See, he's going to avoid the conflict. She will too. If it's a woman doing this, she will too. She's not going to risk repeating things that could cause more conflict or that would cause jealousy or any other issues. And so you're gonna get one story or no story at all, and the friend is gonna get all the tea, all the business.
Now, this is intimacy now, right? We're not talking about sex, and I think a lot of times people make the mistake of always making it synonymous. That if we say intimacy, it means sex. No. Intimacy simply means you are opening up and sharing your thoughts from your mind, your feelings from your heart. There's a connection there. Yeah. There's a vibe there. There's a chemistry there. And I feel more connected to you. I feel more understood, more seen, more heard.
Less judged.
Less judged.
Because who's doing the judging? Your spouse.
Right.
Your spouse is judging everything. Well, I mean, here we go again. This is your mode. I mean, listen, this is how you show up every time. Like, I mean, God, 10 years ago, you were saying the same thing. Like, the spouse knows you, right? Like no one else can know you, right? And even in a friendship, you're still hiding a whole version of yourself that the wife or the husband fully knows. Okay,
because they've had a front row seat to your life.
They've had a front row seat to your life, how you do all the things. They're with you in the muck and mire of it all every single day. Your friendships are outside of that. They're only seeing an exterior perimeter of your life, right? And so they can be less judgmental. They can be sympathetic and empathetic. And that's where things get dangerous because the moment things go awry in the marriage, you can turn to that friend and be sympathetic and empathetic with them, and you'll receive it from them. And this is important to talk about because when we say that it is not good for married people to have friends of the opposite sex, it's not us being legalistic. It's us understanding human nature and presenting barriers around a marriage to protect it from the inevitable. That's what this is doing. Inevitably, things go awry in some way, shape, or form. Does it necessarily have to turn into sex? No. But can it infringe on the intimacy that your spouse deserves? Usually, yes.
This is perfect timing. I've shared this example before, but I'll mention it again. Think about Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving, you get together with other family members. There's a huge spread of food. We had turkey, we had lamb chops, we had macaroni and cheese, potato gratin, we had stuffing, we had cranberry sauce. Wasn't it potato gratin?
It's all gratin.
Whatever, you know what I'm talking about. We had bread, we had red velvet cake, we had sweet potato pie, we had lemon lush, we had peach cobbler. It was insane, right? Now imagine somebody coming over to indulge in this huge meal, but before they got to the house, they stopped at a McDonald's, right, to get a quick Big Mac, large fry, cherry Coke, apple pie, just to hold themselves over till they got to the meal. So now we give thanks. We all diving in. They're sitting at the table looking at us eat, and we're like, "Are you gonna get some? Are you gonna get in on some of this?" And he's just like, "I'm good." And we're like, "What do you mean you're good? Like, do you see what's on the table? We wait all year for this." And he's just like, "Well, I went to McDonald's and I had a little bite to eat." And so the natural appetite that he should have developed and have ready to go to splurge into this meal was compromised over a happy meal on his way to the house. The point that I'm trying to make is that in your relationship, there should be a natural attraction, a natural desire, a natural drawing that you have to your spouse to open up your heart, mind, and everything else. But if you have someone on the side, a friend, quote unquote, that you reach out to, that you connect with, you're getting a need met that should be met by your spouse in the relationship. And so you said, well, the friend may only have a surface aspect and your wife knows it all. But there are some situations where it's the opposite, where this friend knows everything about your life and your wife, your spouse, your husband only knows a portion because you've already found a need met in somebody else that is not being met in the marriage. So we've seen it go both ways, and that's why it's so damaging.
And this is the thing, because somebody might be thinking, well, what's the difference between that same sex and opposite sex? I mean, I tell my girlfriend everything, and I'm a female, and I tell my girlfriend everything, and she knows all the things, some stuff I can't tell my husband, some things I can't talk to my husband. See, but when you think about how the natural development of any relationship between a male and a female, when it's natural, when it's not, a one night stand and one hit quit, there is a development of connection through conversation. That's how you develop intimacy, right? So God designed us to be drawn to each other through connection, through staring into the eyes, through, oh man, I'm so sorry that happened to you. You don't deserve that. Those little things, that happen naturally because we're human, is what makes it dangerous with opposite sex friends. I don't care how many times my girlfriend put her hand on my shoulder or cry on my shoulder or put her hand on my knee. I do not want her.
Facts.
And she don't want me because I choose the right friends. Do you understand? So there's a difference. There's a difference when I'm connecting and sharing and opening up my heart to a man. He is opening his heart up to me. He is sharing intimate things with me. He's relating to me. This is how natural relationships develop. This is how it should. This is how marriages that are strong marriages, they'll say, we started out as friends. Like, we didn't even know. Like, you and I started out as friends. We weren't trying to connect in any kind of way. We just started out as straight up platonic friends, but we were single. That's the narrative. He's so silly. See, this is a real teaching point, and you getting silly on it, but it's real. Like, we were friends until we weren't. And it was you who was the initiator. So let's be clear on that. But at the end of the day, if people understand that in the beginning, when you are just being friends, single, nobody on the side like you're supposed to be, and your intentions to just be friends with this person, over time, feelings will develop. And this is why we have to keep those doors closed and protect our marriages from infringing on those boundaries that are supposed to protect the marriage. Having those opposite sex friends outside of your marriage is definitely a compromise. And people would say, well, I've been friends with this person for years. Okay, there are some exceptions that I've noticed. Have you noticed exceptions?
To people having, well, when there's healthy boundaries around those relationships.
Sure. Like if they're married, if it's a friend from your childhood who's opposite sex, who is married, and you or in some committed courtship, and you guys connect together as a couple, exception.
Along with boundaries, right?
Sure.
And this is what I'm saying, like, that can only happen if there are conversations that we're having about that couple, because I've seen that go awry. And this is why it's important that the couple is on the same page. And typically what happens is, I don't care about you having opposite sex friends, because maybe I secretly want opposite sex friends. So we don't really talk about it. We're not on the same page. We just haven't
and
really come to terms.
We never checked it from the very beginning of the relationship. It's what we brought in, and ain't nobody ever checked it. Right. So it's awry.
So I'm gonna continue to have my opposite sex friends, whether you do or not. And then you only find out about mine if it comes up. And I'm like, what's the big deal? Nothing's happening. Maybe nothing is happening, but something is always happening, even when nothing's happening. Because if you limit it to just sex, if you limit it just to a physical interaction, you're missing it. And everything that you just said just speaks to it, right? It's not just about that. It's about the connection. It's about the companionship. It's about the emotional investment that you're making in another person. And that's what makes this whole concept of the dangerous partner profile so real. Because when you're thinking about the components, and there's 8 to the dangerous partner profile, none of it has to do with physical interaction. None of it has to do with any type of physical, emotional, or no, it's emotional. No physical or sexual attraction. It's the emotional piece. That's the driver. And the fact of the matter is, listen, when we talk to couples, oftentimes it comes out that the affair partner wasn't necessarily more beautiful or handsome. They didn't necessarily have it together in a way that the spouse didn't. When you compare the spouse and the opposite sex affair partner, usually the spouse wins 10 times out of 10 in terms of the comparisons that are made. But what did that opposite sex affair partner do that the spouse did not?
You know what? Listen, maybe, because I was just talking to, I think, one of my daughters about this, that like, you know, sometimes, I mean, if the person is highly unattractive to you, okay, a person could be highly, highly unattractive to you, but the nicest person ever, going back to becoming friends, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nicest person ever. Somebody at work, just not my type. Babe, you ain't never got to worry about this joker. He is not my type, okay? And you looking at him too, husband, and you like, I got 10 up on this one.
This is real right
no
here.
Interest. Okay,
real
yeah,
right
yeah.
Here.
He busted. He ain't no competition. But guess what? He listens. He understands me. He's compassionate. Suddenly, she doesn't see that monster anymore. He started looking a lot better even in the face. Like you start noticing, wow, yeah, his nose bent, but he got some gorgeous eyes. I never noticed his teeth were so
bent
straight.
Nose with the gorgeous
I never
eyes.
noticed his teeth were so straight. Man, he got some good skin. He got that good hair too. You know, that's how it happens.
Or
that's
Danielle,
how it happens.
Maybe he's ugly as all get out,
I
but
don't
his
use ugly.
heart is
Beauty's
beautiful.
an eye of the beholder.
It is.
But
And
he's not your type.
But literally, Danielle, what you're saying is so real and so true. And I'm dealing with a couple right now where that's actually the reality. And so what I'm saying is you got to get beyond the external and the exterior. You got to get beyond the surface. Like we're talking about deep relationships here, that in a deep relationship, attraction means nothing. In a deep friendship, see, here's the thing about the dangerous partner profile. This is a person that you would compromise and sacrifice your marriage for to maintain this friendship. But if this friendship ever became a primary relationship, like a spousal type of relationship, it would never work. Ever. It would never work. It only works when it's an affair. It only works in an inappropriate, illicit relationship, because in those relationships, things don't matter. Like you being a Republican, me being a Democrat does not matter in an affair. You being conservative and me being liberal doesn't matter in an affair. The way you manage your money and the way I manage mine doesn't matter in an affair. Like none of that stuff matters because we don't come together or make life decisions where I'm impacted by your opinion, your approach, your methodology. We share what we share. In a marriage, all those things matter.
Right. And
this is why the comparison between a relationship and a marriage is really unfair, because it always there's no balance there. And so what I'm saying is, this is why we have Beauty and the Beast relationships all the time.
That's what I'm talking about.
Someone who is just visually not pleasing to you, but meets other neats. Like,
even though she was a prisoner, but anyway.
What makes the 60-year-old pot-bellied, bald-headed, older man be attracted to by the young 25-year-old?
Well, there's other components that go into that. Of course there is. But I got what you're saying. Hear
what I'm saying. Like, there's something in that connection. Yeah. There's something
beneficial.
For sure. Forget the money for a second. Mm-hmm. If I didn't have a healthy relationship with my dad, mm-hmm. and now I'm looking for a fatherly figure. Right. I can't find that in my spouse because we're the same age. We grew up together, or we're peers. Mm-hmm. But there's something in him that meets a need in me. There's wisdom. There's protection. There's an experience. There's something that I'm not getting. Mm-hmm. That's the attraction. Physical has nothing to do with it. Right. So if I'm looking for something in another person that I choose not to get from my spouse or cannot get from my spouse, and we're just calling it friends. Oh, he's a mentor. Oh, he's someone I just go to from time to time. That could be
100%.
You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. And the thing is we should be doing everything humanly possible to never meet our dangerous partner profile. And that's why we set boundaries, because everybody has this dangerous partner. Everyone has them out there. And if you're open with no boundaries and you have no rules and you get to befriend anybody and everybody, you're bound to meet that person and can potentially compromise your marriage and your vows.
Again and again and again.
Again and again and again.
And so this is why it's important to understand that the more secure your marriage is, the more secure these quote unquote platonic relationships will be. The more insecure your marriage is, the more intimate these platonic relationships will be. And even the word platonic, and we've talked about this, is written in our book, Platonic, by definition is problematic within itself, because platonic simply means to have an intimate and affectionate relationship with a member of the opposite sex, void of sexual interaction. Now that's problematic because the whole nature of a friendship doesn't start off sexual. It becomes sexual over time because of the level of intimacy, right? Yeah. So to your point, I'm an opposite sex male friend, and just doing this, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. That alone is a seed that's planted.
You don't know people's triggers. You don't know their spots and stuff like that. And people always touching. That's why, listen, don't touch my man. Don't touch my man.
That's right.
I'm the roll up on you and correct you type. Don't touch my man in my sight. Because that kind of stuff, like, y'all think it doesn't mean anything, but it is. And also, let me not go deep on transfer and stuff, but the point is that touch is connection. People use this in psychology all the time, in sales all the time, to befriend you, to lower your defenses, to get you off guard. In sales, somebody might be like, let me show you, or try to befriend you. Like, these are tactics that people use to make connections with you, to befriend you. So you might just be a touchy-feely type, or they might be a touchy-feely type, and you don't even know what's happening to you. So this is why we have to have these conversations. And this is where you have a courageous conversation, really, because this might be something that you've never actually had the boldness or felt the freedom to bring to the table in your marriage. You've never been invited to have a say in any of this. But now you're charged to say something, because this could be the very thing or very decision that protects your marriage from future issues. Infidelities of all kinds. It's not just sex. You can be heartbroken and devastated just knowing that your spouse shares intimate details about themselves, their heart, their life, and they don't share them with you. Yeah. That's a tremendous betrayal. That's emotional infidelity. It is horrible. It is a horrible thing to know that they can open up to someone else and not to you. So it's your responsibility to bring this up, bring this into the discussions when you have these talks about boundaries. And when you sit down and you go over bills, everybody probably has, a day of the week where you do your budget and you do family conversations. We talk about the kids and stuff. Add your marriage to the conversation as issues that you want to address, so that this is your opportunity to talk about how you want to make changes. I'm going to set certain boundaries. I would like for you to set these boundaries too, to protect our marriage from infidelity. Hey, watch this video that I just saw. It just blew my mind. Don't make an attack, right? This is what you're doing. Don't do that. That never works. Instead, be like, I'm about to make some changes. I just learned some areas in our marriage that I am going way off, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to make some changes. I want to know what you think about this. Watch this video.
Real talk. It's so true. There's so many podcasts that talk about emotional affairs versus physical affairs. And I've heard so many people say, you know what? I could deal with the fact that they penetrated your body, but the fact that they penetrated your heart, for them, that was worse. That was more devastating than the physical act, because some people will make an argument. Sex is just sex is just sex. Some people make that argument, but the emotional connection, the time spent, when we get the reports and when we get the accounts and we see all the calls that were made and the hours that were spent on the phone, when we see all the back and forth text messages, when we finally get access to the social media accounts and see all the scrubbing that is done. Wait a minute. How is it that everything was deleted? What are you like? It speaks to something deeper than just a physical interaction. Yeah. So the depth of betrayal is so deep when there's an emotional, heartfelt connection that happens through communication. The foundation of all communication is intimacy, intimacy. And that's why these friendships really are problematic. And we're going to be talking about this for the rest of the week, because there's so much depth to this conversation that we don't have time for within a 30-minute podcast. But I hope that you heard something that sparked a thought, that triggered something within you, that touched a nerve, because guess what? If you continue to do the same thing, you'll continue to get the same thing. So why not reach out to us for help? Couples Academy, this is what we do. We have a last chance weekend. Matter of fact, there's one coming up December the 13th through the 15th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If your marriage is in jeopardy, you need to be there. Just go to the link in the description, click on it, and find out more information. Why go into 2025 in a broken, busted state when you can go in with a healthy, renewed, restored relationship that you can believe in and hope for, and have a future that you never thought was possible? So just go to the website, couplesacademy.org, reach out to us at 678-200-8996 so that we can figure out how we can assist you in your journey. But until then, I hope you had a great conversation with us. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Listen, love you guys. See you soon. Take care. Bye.